So this is us taking a look at Eve the Second Genesis. Now, if you haven't heard of this, and this seems like kind of vaguely familiar, this is an officially product. I mean, interestingly, CCP is the company that does handle Eve. They also handled making this game. This basically these released Gen Con 2006. It's August. There is an expansion called The Exiled, and it came out through some delays, basically Gen Con the next year, and then after that, it just went radio quiet. The website, after checking with the archive and everything else, like the last statement was, White Wolf is going to be working on doing leagues. Now, that's really about the history of it. It's a card game based on that. What you're looking at is the most readily available product, and I'll be frank. As far as if this is all you can get, this is fantastic. I think this is utterly amazing, and I'll show you why. I have this one open. I'll be opening the other one in a little bit. In each of these, there are basically, we'll just call them factions. It's like corporations or something to that effect. There are 4 factions, if you will, in the game. In the actual, digital game and everything else, and they have them recreated here. These are two-player starters. In there, you'll get 2. This is money. This is a nice full-size rulebook. You can see the print is very clear on that. The white on black's very, it's got a good contrast. It's got plenty of, I found almost all this was rather clear. They have really good pictures. They go card by card telling you what stuff does. As far as card types, it seems daunting at first because they're like, oh, there's like 8 card types. There's not as much as you really need to worry about. So, example, let's take the Amar. So, off the start, you pick your faction. Let me get that action frame. You pick your faction and you get their starting location. For here, we'll do this one. Now, on the front, it gives you your quick little rundown for the turn. The little phases now obviously doesn't give you what all the options you have in the phase. That's its defensive value. That's how much money you get every turn. Easy, right? And these things can be upgraded for that. Then you get certain abilities. You'll notice it switched high defense. You lost your income. Okay. No big deal. That's fine. But it obviously has a little ability. This one can be upgraded at any time, so you can flip it up to get really high defense. That's unique to this faction starbase. Included in this, there are 3. You only pick one, but this is why I'm so impressed by it. They gave you 3 variants of your starting location in the starter deck, meaning that not only is this a complete product, this is a product that has variability built into it, which is really cool. So after that, you have like your 3 outer regions. Now, also interestingly enough, they give you several extra outer regions. Again, for variety. You have to pick 3 of those. Each player picks 3. And they're played to open space, and you fight for them. They give you extra income. They have their own extra values for resources. This is what it costs to play them. In order for you to get these abilities, you have to then take it with a ship. That's awesome. I think if you kind of know the digital game, this game actually really feels like it encompasses that, because you would have like this here, you then have your outer regions whenever you decide to play them, because they start face down off to the side, and you don't have to play them right away until you're ready to start getting some volume. Then after that, you get here are locations. Now locations go on to these regions, and this is how many locations that area can have. So think of them. I don't know how to say it other than think of them as locations, but obviously they provide you with more money, that sort of stuff. Notice most of these are free. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 locations to go with your outer regions. These are off to the side, always available to you to play on your turn. So in your starting, not even your starting hand, you have this. It would be on this side, technically. You have this giving you 2 money every turn. You'd have these face down off to the side. You can then play and expand as you see fit. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can get a little better shot of the card game. Yes, we still have the trash bag from the giant opening ceremony. So we have 14 locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 ships. So, obviously, these are your main fighting units. Really cool aspect of this, they have this ability. So basically, if you wanted to, on your turn, you can turn them and use this. And this tells you what that does. But until you unturn it, they're in this. This one specifically is in patrol mode. Now you'll look, let me bring that a little bit closer, where it says Assembly 1. Let me see if I can find an Assembly 2 ship to kind of show you. I know it's going to be one of the big ones. Assembly 1, Assembly 1. They might not have them in this thing. Oh, here we go. Here's an Assembly 2. So this would start, when you pay for it first, Assembly 2, the next turn, it goes Assembly 1, the next turn, and it will go to your home base. So it encapsulates the build time. If you're familiar with real-time strategy games, it encapsulates the build time. So you have to struggle to get the money to even get these. Then it takes 2 more turns before you can even use them. So you get that build time aspect. I think that's very thematic. That's a lot of fun. There's your attack number. There's your shield number. Now you'll notice there's no health number. And there's no health tokens. Well, when these things all get into fights, whenever you go to a location or someone comes to your location, the fight goes on until no more ships can be destroyed. So, if these 2 ships fought, I blow this up, it goes away. If I'm the only ship left, I control that region. But if these 2 are there, they'd shoot each other, no one explodes, then the attacker has to return home. So basically, if you can't take the site as the attacker, go blow up some ships, but then you limp back home. And then everyone just gets healed back up to full shields for the next turn. That's really awesome for multiple reasons. Rule-wise, it's kind of cool. It's like, okay, we just go back to shields up. But in this box is literally everything you need. You don't need any extra dice. You don't need damage counters. You don't need pen and paper to keep track of a lot of stuff. This is easy. I mean, it comes with your money tokens, so you don't even need loose change to keep track of stuff. That's awesome. I mean, this is a complete game in a box, and that really, impresses me. I whether or not it impresses other people, that's up to you. Next type of card we got right here is news. These are they're analogous to so many other kinds of card games, but what's neat is you'll see they have duration 4, 3, 2, 1. So when you play it 4. The next turn 3, then 2, then 1, and then it goes away. Now, if they don't have a duration, they just kind of hang out there. Now, many of them do not have, like here, this one's only a duration 3. It's not a duration 4. They did so many, because in other games you'd have a counter and it'd be rotating down. This it keeps track of it for you. That's awesome. And then up here you have which factions this can go in. This one can go in 3 of the factions. This one can go in 2 of the factions. If obviously this one here can only go in this deck. If you're buying those products. This one has no factions, so it can go into any of them. Again, really cool, really thematic. If you get both those decks, you can move cards around if you want to, but you can also feel that the universe of this game, the 4 factions, they have restrictions, and that's cool. And you have these. These are essentially kind of like upgrades to, if you want to say, to your empire. They used to call them star-based structures. They really go on your home world, as it were, because it's called your star base. I don't know why I keep calling it your home world, but you get the idea. And they kind of all just hang out there, and they give extra defense, and that's what this one, that's what this deck apparently does. And then here are all the extras I showed earlier. The fact that I just can't emphasize how impressed I am with the way that this was all set up. They thought this out enough. I mean, for the sake of this channel, we're talking about dead, CCGs and everything else. That plastic is toast. These are good without expansion packs, and that's so rare because I was looking at some of my old magazines. I have the Inquest magazines, and they were talking about how to survive for the summer, on like $70. They said $1 a day, so like $70, 7 times 10, you get the idea. And most time it was buy a 2-player starter and like buy 2 extra packs. Like that seemed to be like the whole trend, to buy like a $12, $15, 2-player starter, buy 2 packs, so it has some variety. This doesn't need the boosters, which is good because the boosters are really hard to find. Here's the Myanmar. Actually, I'm showing it from the back. There is your, home region. There are the 3 recommended starting outer regions. And then we have, I think all of them are going to have these Veldspars. I think they're universal, because they're cheap. Because in the beginning, these guys are only starting, actually, that's the flip side. These guys, almost all of them start with like only 2 money. So you need stuff for the early game. These are all locations so you can build out your empire. You can see that these are exclusive to them. They only have the 1, icon. These have the 2 icons. These have 2 icons, and they have a mining 2. They can go to a location and switch over to that as their, if you want to call it like their prerogative program. I'm not sure what's, I wish I knew the name it. It's like function. I think that's what it is. And you can see here, these guys have 2 kinds of functions. They can go out there and then they can switch to mining 1, or they can switch to ambush 1. That's cool. And then obviously you get your really big ships. Let's see how many this one has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So this one has 17 ships. Other one is within reason. You get 3 faction. Here are your news. The art on this is generally from the Eve game itself, so it looks phenomenal. You can see the numbers, the wording is very clear. You don't have any like the white word boxes. This is very clear. The numbers are very clear. The card type says it right there. And then this one only has 2 upgrades for its star-based structure, whereas the other one had 4. Then you have your extra outer regions, your 2 other facilities, and what they said in the book, and this is what's fun. Put that back there. The opponent, there is nothing on the front of these that denotes which one of the upgraded sides you took. So technically, they actually even say make sure you keep it hidden, because then on the back you have 3 extremely different, sides. I don't. It's these little things that add up to my utter admiration for this game. I think it was done in such an awesome fashion. I didn't even know that this existed. And I'm going to assume that that's part of what's going on. But during this was during when CCP had a White Wolf at their side. I don't know how else to say it other than they. How do you get this in the stores? And there was a review of these back in the day, and they basically said they thought it was a fantastic game, but what they had problem understanding was what audience they were trying to reach. Because, as I said, I have a vague understanding of Eve. That's because I played Dust 514, the first-person shooter they designed for the PS3. I thought that game was a ton of fun, so I'm vaguely familiar with the universe, and I had a friend who actually played Eve, so he, gave me the rundown on how these factions and how the game works, and, permadeath and all that stuff. So I'm over here trying to open it. So you see in the box, obviously holds the 2 decks, but you have your 2 shrink-wrapped decks. Pop this thing open. There are your tokens hiding inside. Everything about this is just so top-notch. It has a very finished feel to the final product, and I know that's not really something that you're not looking for. I'll phrase it that way. Most people aren't like, oh, which of these products feels the most finished? But to have the art be that way, I'm trying very hard not to shred into my hand, and also not to rip the plastic, because I'd like to store these in that for the time being. Now, as far as the cost on these, on average, you're looking at about $10 for one of these. If you search around or make some offers and deals, you can get them for slightly under that. I went slightly under that because I bought both off someone. Here we are. the Gallant. There are your 2 bonuses. Here is the front. You see they have a higher defense. They're still making their 2. Just the art, the crisp numbers, the edges just look great. There's more Veldspar. Again, I think all of them are going to have that. You can't have more than 4 cards of the same deck. So these are some different ones. I don't remember seeing this asteroid field before. There's definitely some world building in there. So here we got the ships 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 ships. So this deck's running a little light on ships, but we'll see what they do. You got a 2-4 that's pretty good, 3-2, so that's kind of your fighter. 0-1 with the modes. There are, you can see the factions here are the exclusive, the Tristan frigates, the catalyst that can be used in most decks. This is a 2 faction. So you're getting some of the bigger ones. I'll go through the rest of this. We got our news right here. Look at that. Even though it's Stark, destroy target location. That's just awesome. I don't know how else to say it. Oh, that's awesome. I'm looking to see if we denote rarity on any of these. I'll bring it real close. So what I'm looking at, I know, I just need my autofocus. I'm sorry for cramming the camera, but obviously the print is really small. You see your number there, your art there, but nothing really denotes rarity that I can see. Not that it matters. These things could just be fixed. I'm not seeing anything other than, if you saw a set and it told you what the numbers were. But then you have Starbase structure. This is another one with 4 Starbase structure. Your extra, 6 extra locations, 2 extra home bases. Oh man, I haven't been taken. I'm as that's what makes me so passionate about this project we're doing. This cardboard resurrection thing, is because when you get finds like this isn't you're not always looking for what is the most scandalous story about why a game was created or died. About mismanagement of money. But when you actually find something that just it didn't take for whatever reason, whether it was shipping, it wasn't localized properly or whatever. And then you get something like this, it just utterly blows me away. And, as someone commented, okay, this isn't the most original, I believe was, the phrasing, like it wasn't the most original of games. And I'll mostly grant you that. It's the fact that you are just, you're going out, you're making resources, you're trying to blow up the other guy's stuff. Okay. But then you get this awesome stuff where I'm like, well, but what about when stuff is just done better? Like, for example, you look at Texas Hold'em, how many variations of poker are there out there, and who's to say which one actually sticks? So let's just, sake of it all, we'll look at the Caldar. I actually have the right side up this time. No, I don't. Haha, thought I did. I don't. They threw me for a loop, so, because that is actually going to start on that side. That's really good art. It's just they flip and they make 3. I don't think any of the other ones do that. So this one seems to like it might get the more money quickly. And this also has some really cool rules, like because at the beginning of your turn, you start if you get money. It says if you want to, you can forego all of your income to draw a card. Now, you're also guaranteed another draw, and if you run out of cards, you lose. But that also means that in some of the earlier stages, if you don't have anything to do with your money, if you have enough, or if you're making so little it doesn't matter, think about that. You can just go, instead of making 3 ISK, that's the denomination. Instead of making 3 money, I'd rather see a second card this turn. Okay, that's cool. It's got operations. It's 2 factions, 2 factions, 2 factions. These are available to everyone. The Condor, the Heron, Blackbird. That's a big, expensive beater. Look at that stuff. the Cormorant, 3 faction, exclusive. So how many ships is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's the most ships. So that's cool. Let me look at your news. Target player draws 2 cards for 2 money, exclusive to them. You can, like I said, buy the faction icon. So, I mean, like, these decks, I'm sure as you play them, they're going to have different feels. You have 4 star-based structures. You have the most ships in this, which means you're going to have less news. And when you got your... Well, you have your autofocus that doesn't want to work, right? That's what you got. I mean, the look of the game, I mean, because the property is one of those things where the people that truly love Eve, I mean, they are almost like a devout fan base of that you almost can't explain unless, you know, you really know people's devotions to certain MMORPGs and stuff like that. Then, you know, to take all of that and port it into a game successfully is very challenging. Now, obviously, this is a more... I'm not going to say mature in the sense that it's not the content. It's more the strategy that's going to be involved, because you're going to have to do resource management. You're going to have to make some hard decisions. You're always going to be scrounging for more money. And as you open yourself up, because you look at the speed at which these ships come online, depending on how things are set up, you might find yourself absolutely hurting for that second or third ship that you really need to be there, or, you know, you're in deep trouble. And that's not always great for, you know, newer players to card games, or even younger players that don't seem to really grasp resource management properly. But that's obviously just personal opinion. You can, you know, your mileage may vary. There's no violence inherent in the art. There's nothing wrong with the way this game looks. Now for the core set, excuse my cough, and my shaky cam. Stay. There we go. I'll end on this. I'll just give you some quick collecting notes. So the core set here is obviously the most readily available, and that's fine. These 2 decks are the most readily available product for this. You can find them sub $10 with a little bit of patience, a little bit of digging. The Exiled stuff has 4 pre-constructed decks, 1 for each faction. Awesome. I can't find them for an affordable price, or even all. I can only find 2 of them online, and they're going for ridiculous money. So kind of treat this as what's available for the game, and that's up to you if you want to. If you feel like you want sort of another space, you know, area control game. But if you made me choose, I like the way this is set up. I feel, it might be blasphemous to some people, that the Wars system, the one for Wars TCG, the one for Star Wars, you know, CCG from Decipher, that system has a lot of convolution, because it has to do with characters moving to and from locations and movement, and you have so much openness in what can be done within your deck, but it really puts the burden of deck construction on you because of that open opportunity. This doesn't have as much complication. I feel it really strikes to the areas it needs to. You have your resource management, your resource gathering, because you actually have mining craft. You then have your fighters, because you're you know, like you saw the frigates, the capital ships, everything else. You don't need to fight, but obviously you need to be able to hold these territories, because in order those outer regions that you set up out there, without a ship, you don't control them. So you do need ships to be there. So ships are an essential part of this game. And, you know, and then you have the upgrades to, you know, your home base, you know, what they call it, the star structures or whatever. There's only one kind of currency. The factional allegiance has to simply do with deck construction. It doesn't have to do with any sort of alternate resources, or there's no spot 12 cards or that sort of stuff. The game seems extremely streamlined. The fact that there's variety in the starter decks, I cannot recommend this game enough. If the material appeals to you, I think striking now, if you're looking to pull the trigger, now's the time to kind of put it in your eBay, save search alerts and everything else. The timing for picking this up is now. I don't see this going down. I see this drying up eventually, because there are people selling starter boxes, which is either 6, 3 and 3, or 12, obviously 6 and 6. I see those floating around, but they're all the same deck. So they're basically putting the burn on you if you want to recoup some money by selling off the extras. They're not opening those because those are sealed starter kits. And if you know anything about these collectible markets, if it's sealed, it's worth so much more. And that's whatever. That's their own shame. I'm very happy with this purchase. I think this was a great addition, and I can't wait to put up some gameplay videos. I'll give you the usual YouTube speeches: like, share, subscribe, help us grow the channel. If you feel either able or so inclined, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/cardboard.resurrection. We have a couple of tiers in there. Simple membership always helps us out, but then there is an upper tier for getting into the polls, direct discussion. You can help shape the way this channel grows by selecting what game comes next, selecting what topics we get to first. You can truly help this go on as the philanthropy that it is, because this isn't about getting your money. This is about continuing a project. This is a passion project. This is about us being able to find stuff I've never heard of, to play stuff that I've never played, and get to enjoy stuff that, there's only a snippet about it on Wikipedia. The videos are all unboxing videos. I'm telling you now, I'm going to play this. I'm probably going to keep this in my collection, and I'm telling you, maybe you should too if it appeals to you. So if you feel you're at a place where you can jump in, fantastic. Obviously, the greatest thing you can do is help us get the word out there, grow our YouTube base, because that helps get the exposure, which helps us then get even the stories from the players. If you've played Eve, sound off in the comments, leave me the messages in Patreon. I would love to hear about anyone's experience with this, and especially if you have any of the Exiled, if you have the starter decks, please let me know. I would love to have a discussion with you, possibly an acquisition. So until next time, this is Cardboard Resurrection. We'll be back with yet more material.